So we're live. Well, welcome to 2020. It's kind of scary. Yeah, so I guess we can just start by like catching up, finding out what people have been up to, and if there's any sort of high priority items, especially given sort of the groundwater project and the fact that February is going to be here soon.
I wish you hadn't said that.
Kind of scary, obviously, these things move. Yeah, first announcement. Welcome, Joe. It's good to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah, see, the face looks the same, but you've changed the pictures. Like you used to be in another frame.
I used to be up there.
Yeah, now you're actually here.
Interesting picture. Cool. Well, maybe we can start with the people who are remote. Sagi, you are on my screen. Would you like to go first?
I had a long break, about 3 months. So yeah, I was out of geophysics for a while and mostly taking care of my son, Daniel. But I'm back to work this week, so I'm excited.
Welcome back, Sagi.
I did a little bit of work for that GWV project. Actually, yeah, I developed the 1D code. So yeah, except that.
I think you did a great amount of useful work, Sagi.
Sounds great. I think that's it.
Go for it, John.
I've kind of had a little bit of a lull too in the development side. I've been doing stuff for networking and stuff for DS, but I have been helping Devin out a little bit with the DC side of things for passing those tests. There seems to be just the way that we wrote it for storing J when we do form the whole matrix. It doesn't seem to be working very well with the nodal problem. Just to have to take a look at that. I'm hacking away at it and got it mostly working. That, and I've also started a new branch where I've pushed my Durbin-Watson work.
Cool.
That's about it so far.
One question with the storing J, is that now by is that a new default or is that a new option?
It's a new option. If you do choose to form the whole matrix, it'll use the code that Dom kind of implemented there. So that if you don't form J, you don't have to worry about this problem. Kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. And which does it default to right now? It defaults to.
I think it defaults to it equals false. I was looking at that yesterday, but I couldn't quite find it. But just from the testing, yeah, it defaults to not storing the full matrix.
Sounds good.
Can you refresh me on what Durbin-Watson was?
It was just kind of another addition to the data misfit, just like a better measure of fit.
Okay, yeah.
It seems pretty interesting. I've kind of zoned in on the right cooling and heating factors, and as soon as you can figure that out, it seems to be doing some interesting stuff. Not too wildly different, but it's behaving, I should say, right now.
Cool. Thibaut, would you like to?
Back at writing after a 2 weeks break. Just I guess since the last meeting, I submitted the paper to interpretation with the joint inversion of potential field data at DO27. So I submitted the case study before submitting the methodology paper. Well,
Excellent.
That happens.
Perfect. Go for it, Joe.
So probably a lot happened since I last been on here and talked to you guys. So I defended my thesis. Thank you very much for those of you guys who were able to join. It was really nice. The department had really enjoyed that part of it. He was able to join remotely as well. I think he's going to encourage his students and other students to continue doing that in the future. So that went well.
And I must say, it was a very fine presentation. We were impressed.
I felt like it just kept going, even as I was giving it. Like there was a lot of little details that I had to talk about, and I made it through it. I'm here now.
Greatest contribution.
Excellent, yes.
I'm here now and ready to get going. My first kind of goal is to get a handle on these pull requests, catch up on that stuff that's been behind.
Excellent. We're very glad about that. Max.
Well, not much to say.
Hi.
What's that? Lots of skiing,
Good.
but yeah. And then some amount of pushing forward for getting to Myanmar too. So that's
Any specific things you want to chat about or bring up later on?
You know what? One thing too is that I've actually got finally a hint, a sniff of a good data set, which is a fractured aquifer or water fracture that's in the order of 30 to 40 meters deep that we took data on, a couple of them actually. So I'm hoping that, in fact, they're in Asia too, Southeast Asia. So I'll hope to have those next week, so we can test those in the modeling programs that are available to us now, or will be shortly. And I don't know what the progress of that has been, but if I can't get that one, then it'll just be one that's a whole layer or a whole, basically a half space of conductive material underneath the resistant.
Excellent.
But other than that, no, nothing specific. So I actually get to see the performance of stuff. Actually, one point that we've been talking about too, that we're having some troubles with Res 2D in now from the point of view of it's not handling the boundaries very well, because we're having to cut the influence of the adjacent blocks, basically, of what the main model is. And then also having some trouble with reciprocal data, where we're getting underneath the resistive material, we're getting very conductive blobs in the center of it, which we don't believe, and which drilling hasn't proven out. So a couple of points. And we've gone back. The route to Loki is now through Europe, and the company that's handling their sales and everything like that. So it used to be Loki would respond to you within 24 hours usually, if you sent them a question on Res 2D into 3D. So it's a little bit more circuitous now.
So to maybe follow up on Max, if you can get that data set, that would be great.
Yep.
It's perfect timing, and be something that's relevant. And water in fractured aquifers is good. On this side, we've had some really good news, and that is that this morning I received an email from he's the deputy director for irrigation for Myanmar. So he's basically second in command of their water studies in Myanmar. They're the people at the National Survey that have the IRIS-SISCAL system, and they're finally on board with taking responsibility, saying that, okay, they're going to have 25 people from the DRD, they're going to have other people who are coming. He's invested in the TOTs, these are the people that we will train, and they're expecting us to be there on February 3rd. So that is great. This is an email that we've been trying to get for the last 8 months, and has caused considerable angst because we haven't had it. But in all of that is kind of like now water under the bridge, and so it's all systems. So we have basically 3 weeks to kind of put things together. Soggy has been great about developing the notebooks, and I must say I was really pleased with Devon who actually I initially thought he was going to use your notebook and then just change parameters to invert the data independently. He did not do that. He actually made a whole notebook and went ahead and inverted in 1D. And I think that is a tribute to SimPEG that, and to Devin, that he could just like put this stuff together and get a result out that looked good. And what was especially exciting, I cannot tell you how relieved I was when I saw this. When I was in Myanmar, managed to get 5 data sets, basically vertical electric sounding Schlumberger data sets, and they invert things. I think they're using a Japanese code, which is kind of like a Monte Carlo thing. And they had inverted this one data set, and they found a near-surface aquifer and then potentially deeper aquifer. Devin, when he inverted his data, came up with a model that was really similar to that. And that coincided with what Soggy got. So not only do we have intercomparisons between 2 people using SimPEG codes within the group, but a comparison with the code outside. And it's their data which they will really resonate with. And you know, it was just like all of the positive check marks that we could think of. So that particular data set is now in a case history. Soggy made a whole bunch of improvements yesterday, and Lindsay and Joe also contributed. So we're about ready to send that off. That was on tap for today. It will probably be tomorrow before it gets off. The goal there is to send it to the TOTs as well as all of the higher brass in the DRD establishment, and just get everybody on board. If we can get the 5 TOTs to look at this Google Doc, to make a comment, to make a textual change, or maybe add a figure, we will have really opened the spigot here for interaction. So I'm hoping that will come, and as I said from today's email, it looks like I think things will happen. So we're actually, I think, in really good shape. I think we have a real opportunity to make a difference here now that we've got this real strong support from the national government, and we'll see people from different states within Myanmar. I think there's a lot of opportunities. So on tap for this week yet is to do some final testing of the 1D code, and to develop some exercises that we can use for teaching and training. And then for next week, especially if Max can get the data set, we can try Soggy's code on a field 2D data set. In the meantime, next week will be kind of devoted to taking the synthetic 2D that we've got and then running it through Soggy's code. The other thing, and this is again a tribute to Devin, is he's the only person I've seen in my entire life who loves documentation and is very proud that he can write documentation. So the SimPEG group here is really blessed because we've got Soggy who can program the whiz out of everything and optimize anything that's being forward modeled and version. And we've got Devin who can kind of hack his way through, but is great at documentation. So we got 2 notebooks, which can be then combined, and we're going to have a really fantastic sequence of notebooks. Anyway, that's kind of where we are. I don't think I've ever had such good news to present as the results of what's been happening from the SimPEG development and from the Myanmar group.
Quick question there, Doug. Do we know geographically where that data set is from?
Yes.
Is there a chance of doing a 2D survey there?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that latter question, but I think once we get this case history into the hands of people there, there's a real chance for engagement and to use that as a springboard to do all that.
Well, in the hopes they understand it too. But yeah.
Anyway, it's actually pretty close to Maumee.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, and over here we have Mr. Tan from the British Virgin Islands.
And flaky, my skin is flaky. So. That's the best skin. I guess on my list is I still need to do reviews for simulation PF and then simulation JK for BC. It's getting pretty close. Just some cleanups. We need to be more consistent with naming, that kind of stuff. It's probably some like older variables that we don't need anymore, that kind of things. Within the GAP project, I've been working a lot on the with the 1D code SAGI, with the EM 1D. And I don't know if you remember, but I asked a question to you and Dieter about the accuracy, right? We kind of favor the speed over accuracy for the 1D code. And that was hurting out a lot in the late time channels. So after benchmarking against UBC, this should be changed forever. I think we should try to preserve accuracy over speed. Because it was really causing me trouble for trying to fit the late time channels, obviously. So that was the past couple of weeks. And yeah, just working at trying to figure out a good way to assign uncertainties on the time domain data. And more, mag and graph, but at some point I can share stuff with you guys.
I kind of remember you mentioned there's lots of IP effects in your VTEM data. So that's what you meant, how you're setting the uncertainties, and is that what you meant, like your meaning?
No, well that's one thing that I would like to discuss with you later. So if you could share either a notebook or a script with me to be able to if we could try to estimate the IP parameters, that would be great. That's kind of a separate issue because I'm doing what you're proposing. Every time I have a negative time channel, I'm just putting infinity for uncertainties and just basically don't try to fit it. That seems to work all right.
Right.
But just how to scale the different time channels, right? It's kind of hard to do this globally, to just assign floors or percents, whatever. I found a good trick today, actually. It looks like it's doing a pretty good job. If we estimate the best half space connectivity for each sounding, and then use the forward calculations for that best half space value, that actually gives us a pretty good floor for all the time channels. And just after this is just a scale up or down. But,
yeah. So what like kind of Aarhus style is basically remove, like if you think that's noisy data, basically remove, and then don't set the floor. That's what the kind of typical here. So basically you're just setting the percentage and then trying to fit the data pretty well. That's what they're doing. Anyway, so just one way.
Yeah, I've tried all these strategies, but you have tendency to fit very well the early times and not so well the late times. So anyway, so far so good.
That's good.
I'll show you what I have.
Yeah, sounds good.
Done. Is that accuracy problem specific to the time domain of SimPEG M1D, or is that something that affects also the frequency domain for the low frequencies?
That is specific for a time domain. So it's basically how many frequency are you going to use, and so I was actually minimizing number of frequency that I'm computing when I'm transforming into time. But particularly for a very resistive background, like where DOM is working on, that could be problematic. But like California, your background is 20 ohm meter, it's not a big deal. So it's pretty accurate here. But so it kind of depends. I was minimized. I was sort of tuned into an application that I was working on. But yeah, if there's another application, you probably need to alter that.
But even at 1,000, it was pretty bad. Like the last line channels were just being nonsensical compared to like the EM1DTM, you know. And after
Yes.
the fix, then we were like.
Right. Yeah, 1,000 is pretty resistive. Like so.
What was done to compromise the accuracy?
So you would know better than I am. I just Dieter that told me to change the switch. And
So it's basically like changing number of points per decade. So I was using 3, and Dieter say, oh, 5 might be better. So something like that.
Yeah. And is that a default that we should change to be a bit more conservative in SimPEG EM1D, like by default?
Yeah, I think so. Like by default, like we need to choose conservative. So we're gonna, we had an agreement that we need to change that into a more conservative parameters rather than kind of maximizing the accuracy, like the performance or the time.
Because it didn't change the performance that much, but yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't change any performance. It's just like simulation accuracy.
Yeah.
Can I make sort of one comment that's kind of related? So Jean Legault sent an email yesterday, I think it was, asking, because if there was anybody here that wanted to talk, so Geotech always has one-day workshop at Roundup, and then he was wondering if there was anybody here that wanted to talk. It seems like here's both with what Thibaut's done and what Dom's been doing. Here's 2 places that we could use airborne data. So we've got SimPEG EM1D, and then we've got the joint conversion. And really provide some visibility for SimPEG as well as the results that have been achieved from that. So I don't know, that's an opportunity.
Yeah, I pitched it, right? Jean said yes. And I think that's where it's like, if we could do a little bit of IP analysis on certain targets, that could definitely elevate the talk, right? Because
When is this Geotech talk?
24th, I think, of January.
Right.
Saturday.
And then Jean also asked, he wants to do a symposium right after SEG. So that's going to be in October. And then Jaja pitched the idea to do one workshop on the machine learning. And then I pitched the idea that we could do basics of, well, actually he asked if we could give a SimPEG 101 talk. So Dequan and I are kind of brainstorming ideas to give a day workshop on this. You study here in the program.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be wonderful.
It's 6 months from now, so
Yeah.
we have time.
Is anyone in there?
No, I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of happening on Segment, the Segment news, like email chain, and yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
So
I think
that's
that
after
timing is
the
perfect.
after the
Right
SCG.
Would it be in Houston?
Houston.
Yeah. So a SimPEG 101 as well as a machine learning.
It would be two
Yeah.
separate days.
Right.
So Jaja pitched the machine learning part. And then Dequan wanted to do a full, you wanted to, I think originally Dequan wanted to do like a symposium and invite speakers to talk about EM inversion. But we might just try to just bring EM to the SimPEG, do an morning on the framework and like a linear inversion, and then do an afternoon on like Dequan and Jaja.
That sounds great.
That would be great.
Has Dequan been back in the AGU? Because he was going to start to start reviewing and interacting.
No, there hasn't been anything. I mean, there's like a couple messages on Slack from his group. I know that some of his posts they're chiming in with questions. Oh, I haven't heard anything from Yvonne yet. But actually, that is a great segue into discourse. So I set up a discourse group. And I will just share my screen, Saki and John, so you guys can see this. So let's just share this guy. Can you see that? Yeah, okay, perfect. So let me just see if I can move, there we go. Yeah. So discourse is basically like a web forum that is a bit more nicely organized than like Google groups. And so I went in and set up, like if you go to this web page now, simpeg.discourse.group, this is what you will see. So we've got a few different categories, like getting started, site feedback are sort of default ones, and then some specific ones around methods. And so ideally, this is a place where we have people come and ask questions and where we answer questions. It's searchable, it's public, and so if somebody comes and asks a question about a mag inversion and you've already answered it, then you just send them a URL and say, would you mind just adding to the discussion here? And so I'd like to encourage everyone that if you're getting emails, if you're getting personal emails or personal Slack threads, I think it's totally fine to respond there, especially in Slack, if it is a real-time conversation, that's totally fine. But then try and just take a minute to capture that and stick it up here so that it's archived and can be referenced later. Same thing with emails. Emails, at least what I'm going to start doing is if people email me and ask with a specific question, is sort of give them a step of where to look and then say, can you please post this on Discourse? I will respond to you there. It's just to try and start like migrating people over. So anyone here, if you sign up, I can make you, I don't know how many admins were allowed, but I will elevate a bunch of people so that we all have access to go in and change stuff. If there's other categories that you think that we should have, just let me know and I can add some. I mean, we don't want this to like completely balloon, but if you think that we should have something specifically on discretize, for example, that might make sense. If we should have something specifically on inverse theory, that also might make sense. So if there's questions that you get and you're like, it doesn't fit in any of these things, feel free to add stuff. We have one specifically for the Myanmar project. And so I'll just give like a quick overview of what you can actually do with things. So if you want to actually just answer a question, if somebody asks you a question, when you go to create a new topic, it just looks like this. So you give it a title, you select a category so it can fit in any one of these. So maybe I've got a question about potential fields. And then there's just a little text editor and you can upload pictures and files attached to this so people can add text files. I think it supports quite a few different file formats. If we have if there's something that you're trying to upload that doesn't work, I actually have authorization to like change what file extensions we allow. So just let me know if you run into any issues there. Yeah, does anybody have questions about that?
So that one won't replace issues, I'm guessing. This is more like a usage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if we can try and parse it so that issues are more like tech-driven, what's going on in the code, and then discourse is much more like user questions. And I mean, there will be things that might go back and forth.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Are you going to migrate some of the questions, issues here?
Yeah, I definitely think we should.
Or even what's supposed in Google?
Yeah, I think there's a way that we can like batch do that. So I'll look into that. And then I'm at least going to go through at least some of my recent emails. I'm not going to do a deep dive, but some of the recent, I've answered a few ones recently in a fair amount of detail that is worth just capturing. So if everyone adds like one email that you've answered in the last week, we all of a sudden have actually a fair bit of content up here.
So that would be like an email that would just be the question and then your response. Yeah, just trying to visualize how that procedure would actually work.
So what I would do is I got an email from a woman who's I think she's in Italy, working on EM inversions. I think I will pass that along to you. She sent a very detailed email So I would just email her, ask permission, hey, do you mind if I repost this on Discourse? I'll just copy paste your email verbatim into a post, and then I will reply to that afterwards.
Okay.
So if you see, Jupyter is actually pretty active on Discourse. I think it's Jupyter.discourse. No. Discourse.jupyter.org for an example. So you can see sort of the setup here. And so if we look, for example, on Finder, just seeing, okay, this looks like a pretty active topic. So somebody's having trouble with getting R working. And then you can include links, and it integrates to GitHub really nicely. So you can reference specific issues and stuff like that. And then go ahead and have something sort of be resolved. So.
So it's like a workflow, but specific for each project.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. I think that's my major update for things on the go there.
So back when what was the Jesus one there? What's the GeoSci.xyz?
It is a cloud that I believe is in Europe. So I don't know. I think
just
it's
coming out because we had the Golder equipment system
Yeah.
inventory or supply
Yeah.
or whatever it was, and we decided not to use the G in front.
Yeah.
Wait, you're going to use a J?
And then switch it to a U, perhaps.
Yeah. No, I think it's a cloud somewhere in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, not the same one, and not the one with the J. Cool. Perfect. So then if we come back to the notes here, I'll just put a link actually for the discourse. And actually, even if questions that we ask each other, like we can try and, what I would suggest maybe doing is if you have something that you think will be useful for others, is just post the question in Discourse and then just drop the Discourse link in Slack and say, hey, would somebody mind taking a look at this? It's on EM and whatever. So that we can just start like getting people on board there. Cool. So
Could Discourse also be a conduit to people who say, I want to learn something about Python, or I want to learn, pick any topic. Would that somehow work? I mean, let's suppose you just want to put up something that help people get started on Python and where the references would be. Stuff like that. Is Discourse a venue for that? Or?
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, definitely just like point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Go look at this. Go check out this link. Go check out this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I think that those kinds of questions, I mean, especially because if you just like Google tutorials on Python, I mean, because Python is like such a widely used language, you're probably gonna land on something for web developers, which is completely not constructive for what you need. So I think it's totally fair to post those kinds of questions here. I mean, we're not gonna like be writing up how to use Python tutorial.
No,
but
just
like to use like software
important
carpentry.
link.
Yeah,
Exactly. If you're going to start and you don't want to waste your time, use this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think even like going in, and this might actually be a constructive post for someone to write up before Myanmar, would actually be sort of an opinionated installation process. We have some of that in the SimPEG docs, but basically say like use Anaconda, set up Conda Forge as your defaults, like basically give a very opinionated, straightforward way to get SimPEG up and running. And I think that would be a useful thing to have here. So yeah. So if
that means I should write. I should post a question, right? And then Joe could answer it.
Yes.
Like, okay, this is what you
Go
do.
here.
yeah, absolutely.
Or those snippets that we all share to each other, but it's buried somewhere in an email.
Yeah.
Those snippets that we all use all the time.
Yeah, and then as stuff like if there are things that come up that should be included in the documentation. easy copy paste over, right? So it should be
Mhm.
hopefully useful.
In the Jupyter Discourse, did some of these just kind of get totally out of hand? I mean, they just get so big that you can't follow or can't find things, or is the searchability pretty good?
The
or-
searchability is pretty good. And then they also, and this is something that we can evolve as we go. Let me screen share this again, just so that folks can see it. So for example, like even their landing page is slightly different than ours. So we actually, you have control over that. And so we can experiment with what works for us. So they have all the categories and then sort of the most recent posts. So if we're looking at something about Jupyter Lab, then it's sorted by, you can sort by how recent something is, how often it's viewed, how many replies there are, and then you can also just search for keywords. And then you can search specific to categories. So it's pretty good. It's definitely way better than Google Words. So good. Joe, do you want to talk about Python 2.7?
Sure. Basically, 2.7 is now like it's. From what I understand, it's they're code freeze. They're not doing anything else to it unless there's major bugs. It's basically done as of the beginning of the year. So essentially, what I think will happen is that if there are any bugs that happen to pop up on 2.7 testing, and it doesn't pop up on any of the other versions, we'll just turn it off and move on. Just putting that out there, like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Switch.
Anything that is currently being tested on 2.7, if it stops working on that,
It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll need to update at some point.
yeah.
I mean, is that something you want to just remove now? Like, I'm fully supportive of that.
I mean, I will.
Okay.
Like if it, I'm not going to go through everything and like just turn it off. Like once something gets updated, I'll go through and like remove the testing at that point.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds very good. And with that, actually, I think then it's totally fine for us to start introducing stuff that is not Python 2.7 compatible. So there's some nice things, even like, have you guys seen F strings? It's a really nice way to write strings in Python. Let me just pull up the Jupyter notebook.
Essentially, you can include the variable name in the string that'll take it out.
So let's just share this guy. I have no idea what's in this notebook, but oh, there's nothing in there. Okay, excellent. So if we see, I don't know. Oops. So right now, if you wanted to do something like A is, then you would do something like this, right? That is the same now as doing this,
Oh, okay.
which is actually just like so much more readable. And then if you wanted to go in and do something like this, so now it's formatted as 1, 2, E, that'll work. And so that's just like a simple little thing that's in Python. I think it was 3.6, I don't know. Yeah. But it actually is faster. Like if you time these, this is faster.
And
and
you can
it's
stack
much
as many
more
as you want.
So simple things like that, like if you want to just start including that, go for it. So
I finally learned about the raw flag for PC, right? The backslash is always a nightmare. You need to double backslash everything. If you use the raw flag, you just do it one backslash. Just the flag.
What's the raw flag?
Instead of F, you put R in front of it, and then it's yeah.
You can also usually use like the Unix /1. It'll automatically know what you're talking about.
The what, sorry?
You can use the Unix style one as well. Most of the time, it'll just know which one. It'll notice that
Oh, okay. Do the
Just
full
saying,
sessions.
like, Windows will be like, oh yeah, you actually do that.
Need to leave now. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
You,
Oh,
Soggy.
yeah, see you guys
Soggy,
later.
we'll be in touch. Thanks again
Bye,
for
Soggy.
all the work you did yesterday, Soggy. I really appreciate that. That's great.
No problem. Bye.
Yeah, okay. Any other topics, things people want to go over?
Pretty good.
We did. I think the only somewhat urgent thing is our timeline for these pull requests. I think we want to get things in the next 2 weeks, ideally. So there's still a little bit of lead time to work out kinks before meeting.
Because you want to work up simulation.
Yeah, and we want people to install it through Conda. So yeah, so we should get all that in. And with that, we'll need to do like a blog post and some pretty complete release notes. Just because we are breaking backwards compatibility, it shouldn't be too painful from the user side of things, but we're gonna get a bunch of questions, so. Yeah. Any other things from your end, Sean? No?
Nothing as of right now. I'm just getting back into things now that I've done some of the other app work. So.
Hey, John, I have one for you. We had the Aurora Geoscience where he was asking to be able to invert MT basically. What's the status again? Which branch are you on? And
For inverting MT? Sorry? Actually, both seem to be working. The master copy, or the master is everything, it's set up so that every station has to have an E and a B. But my simulation class, simulation JK, is set up for you can have sparse B and a lot of A, or sparse E, and likewise. So it depends on what kind of formulation they're trying to make.
oh, I see ELF, so I guess it's magma, right? It's like a VTEM. It's like
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, more like ZTEM. Okay, yeah. Then that does invert, but I did notice are they referencing an E station at all?
I have no idea. I didn't look at it.
I think they're. No, I think they're probably just using vertical and horizontal fields as they're going along. Actually, I'm not sure.
Okay,
We talked some time ago, but I've forgotten now.
Okay, if that's the case, then it should be all good. The simulation class one should be good to go. The only thing is if they do have, or I found that if you put one E field, or if you try to reference an electric field, the version is biased towards that station. It'll start pulling the anomaly towards the single station.
All right, some tweaking, yeah. As long as it runs.
Yeah. No, I've had no problems running. We've done tons of simulations, and yeah, it seems to be running good.
Right on.
Oh, I guess that's the thing. The simulation version also has the fields parallelized over frequency with DAS. So I guess there's a little bit of a speed up for that version.
Excellent.
With J.
JK, yeah, simulation JK.
Forming J, I mean.
Oh, well, that's for the DC. For MT, no, I don't have that set up yet for forming full J. That's the next step, but when I get there, hopefully soon.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. And I guess we'll regroup again next week.
That's better than the last meeting that we had when it was going to be a whole year before we regrouped. Hey guys.
See ya.